for me, I feel like the term entrepreneur is just like, it's like any other industry where people are just fascinated, but it's really just a title.
Like, right. Elon Musk is technically an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right. But he ain't like us. Yeah. We be trying to say, my startup. I'm like, his startup, y'all startup ain't the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, we need different words for this type of stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even know how to define entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I would say someone who is willing to do what it takes to make an idea reality. Because I think it's a mindset. Because you don't have to have a business to be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have a startup to be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. You could be working at a company and have an entrepreneurial mindset where it's that you see problems and you know how to fix them. And that you're seeking a solution based on this gap, And that's really what all businesses are, is you're filling a gap, you're thinking about the customer need, and that can be in any space. So to me, that's kind of what an entrepreneur is.
Got it.
I don't think entrepreneurship has to be about a business. It's not just about revenue. It's really about a way of life and kind of a way of thinking.
Yeah, the mindset.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yo, what up? It's your boy Rubino.
And this DJ in the building.
And you listening to the UpNUp Podcast.
Yeah.
Wait, what are we doing?
I don't know, just listen.
Yes. Welcome.
What it do?
Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned into the UpNUp Podcast on the UpNUp Network. I'm your host, Rubino.
And I'm DJ man.
What's up, boss? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. Blessed and refreshed.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
I see you, man.
You see me?
Yeah.
I'm glowing?
How was the game?
Oh, yeah. Shout out the Lakers, man. Yeah, we won both games, so.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. But no, I'm feeling good, man. And this is your first time tuning in. Welcome to the show. As I stated, this is the UpNUp Podcast. This is the podcast where we're focused on cultivating culture, right?
Yep.
We do that by providing amazing stories of individuals, groups, movements, right? The hustlers, the shakers, people who are taking up space, breaking down barriers, right?
Yep.
Not only for all of us here, but for the next generation, right?
Yeah.
We got to put it down so they can pick it up, right?
Always,
man. And if, like I said, if this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the family and to the consistent supporters, viewers, listeners. We call them family, obviously. Shout out to y'all. We love y'all. Salute to y'all.
Always.
Right? We'll keep rocking. Yeah, man, I'm feeling good. Shout out to the team, obviously. I think he was kind of looking at me like, yo, you ain't going to shout me out, Shout out to the team. They always bring the energy, right?
Yeah.
Now, you know how we get down, man. I'm super excited because, again, like I said, we're always honored to bring people up here who can speak power to their journeys, right?
Definitely.
And I feel like that's kind of what we hold space for. And today's guest is someone who I would say is truly became a master of her own destiny. And in doing so, she's found herself now paving the way for the next generation to come along and do it for themselves, right? She's definitely a true culture cultivator who's keeping everything she's doing on the up and up, right? She's a seasoned and successful CEO, business coach, entrepreneurship strategist with over 7 years of experience in scaling multiple companies, breaking barriers in her own right? I would say definitely a community builder and an uplifting voice. And what's most amazing is as a result of her success, she's now positioned herself to be able to kind of build up and pay it forward for the next generation, teaching and guiding, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are able to accomplish a lot, but I think what's most important is what do you do with what you have accomplished and how do you pay it forward? And she's definitely a true testament to that. We're super honored to have her in the building today. So without further ado, let's just get straight to it. Our guest is none other than everyone's business bestie,
Yeah.
Keisha Credit. Can we get a round of applause, man?
I'm so happy to be here.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here on this evening. It's not raining, so
God
it's
bless.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, thank God it's not raining. The sun kind of teasing though a little bit.
For
Still
real.
cold outside.
For real.
Yeah. Well, it's an honor and it's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, you guys. This is great.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you're familiar. We always start every episode with the quote of the day. Something to get the vibe right, get the convo started. So, brother man, what you got for us, man?
Yes, sir. All right, so the quote of the day today is, the more you praise and celebrate your life, the more there is in life to celebrate.
I love that. That's deep.
I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Who's that quote by?
Oprah.
Ooh.
I know that's right.
That sounds like something Oprah would say.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
No, that's real.
How much money do you have to become quotable? You know?
That's another question. That's a good question.
That's a
Like-
great question.
like where it's like your quotes are included in the great quotes.
Man.
That's a
great question, for real.
Matter of fact, we'll pose that question to the audience as well. Just shoot us a DM if you know the answer. Go Google that. That's real.
Like, what makes you quotable? You know, it's like, you know, because blue checks are kind of out since you can just buy one now. You know, so it's like, nah, I'm quotable. That's the new thing.
That's a real one.
That's when I know I made it.
That's legacy, right? Exactly. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a good quote, though. I think it does speak to kind of giving yourself a pat on the back along the way. You know what I mean? I think that's a consistent theme on this show. We've had people come up here and talk about they have a hard time giving themselves their own flowers and that whole thing. So that's a good quote.
Keeps the momentum going. I feel like too as well. So
keep things in perspective. Now, Keisha, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, we're focused on people's journeys and how the roads they've traveled. And for you, you know, you've definitely traveled a road and a journey thus far. I'm sure it's been full of ups and downs, lefts and rights, and all that.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm curious, how would you describe kind of the current chapter you're in at this very moment? Like, where are you at right now?
The current chapter, I would say, my current chapter is grounded. You know, I think I'm 32 now. I spent pretty much all of my 20s grinding 24/7. I pretty much was building companies, living the dream, going hard. And now, you know, I'm pregnant, so I can't go as hard as I'd like to sometimes. And you have to settle into saying, okay, this is the season that I'm in. You know, you got to kind of just let your flowers bloom. This last season was crazy, renovating my house and all the generational shifts and stuff. So this is just a season of, you know, reaping the rewards, taking it easy, taking it slow, really letting God lead, because, you know, my body is doing whatever God wants it to do anyways. So I'm kind of just like, you know, it's just a season of being present. And I'm really enjoying that, where I'm not pushing, I'm not forcing, you know, if something doesn't feel natural, I'm not going to do it. And just saying no to things and, you know, not having to be so in the hustle all the time. And I think I was so used to that. Like, there's still moments when I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing enough, you know, X, Y, and Z. And I'm grateful for the people around me to be like, girl, you're growing a baby. Like, what else? What else do you need to be doing? You know,
that's true.
If there's days when that's all you can accomplish, like, okay. And, you know, I'm grateful that I have created such a foundation for myself where I'm able to say, okay, I need to slow down. This is that season of just, you know, I guess internalizing the process and being grateful for how far things have come and all the stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
I love it. I love it. I love the way you started with saying grounded. Because that's powerful. And I think it's always missing. I think that talk and that it's not bigged up enough. You know what I mean? Like you said, the hustle is always like, it's a hustle culture.
And you know, and I think if you're going to promote hustle, you also have to promote rest. And we don't do that. You know, we stop at the hustle and we're like, you know, you're grinding, I see you. And it's like, you're resting, I see you. Because it's harder to rest than it is the hustle.
That's true.
Honestly. And now there's a difference between rest and being lazy. You know, sometimes if you're not used to hustle, you think rest is laziness. And I had to tell myself, like, you're not being lazy because you're resting. You're not being lazy because you're resting. And, you know, just saying it's okay if you accomplish one little thing today. And I realized that my to-do list is always so long. I'm always thinking so far ahead that every day I'm like, okay, if I do this, I'm a closer step to this, this, and that. But look, sometimes just the one thing, you know. So,
we need reminders that we're human.
Right.
Definitely got to recharge.
For sure.
100%. I love that.
Man, that's what's up. That's definitely a great space to be in, by the way. But I also wanted to take it back and talk about like your upbringing, where you grew up, how you grew up, just everything around influences.
So I grew up in Seattle. I'm from the CD. Let me see. I went to Leschi, then Lowell, then Washington, then Garfield, then UW again. So I've literally been in Seattle forever. And I love it here. Every time that I think I'm going to leave, something is like, nope, This is where you're meant to be at.
Yeah.
Even now, you know, I'm back in my family home, so I just renovated my generational home. So I'm like, this is where I took my first steps. Now I'm taking out the trash. Now I'm paying the bills. Like, this is just crazy. Yeah. So, you know, I grew up here, and Seattle's everything to me. I love it. I love how I've planted seeds here and watching them grow within different people, different spaces, different communities. Being able to be in a space so long that you've seen it change.
Yeah, true.
You know, I have seen the CD go from "Don't you walk down this street to get home" all the way to like little kids be knocking on my door, and I'll be like, "Who are these children? Like, what?" You know,
night and day,
it really is. So, you know, my family, my grandpa was, you know, really the one that was kind of always on me about being different and, you know, being okay to be different. You know, in elementary school, very early, it was the "I'm bored" narrative, which ended up being you're actually gifted. You just need to go to a different school. So I've been in AP since second grade. So I've always been like, you know, just a high achieving brain. Like that's just the way that I think about stuff. So I'm very grateful that, you know, my family saw that and they didn't say, okay, well, we need to put her in, you know, special ed classes where she has a special teacher. And they're like, no, I think she just knows this stuff already. So that really gave me a leg up and an opportunity to be like, oh, this is a whole different world. You know, I went from a school that was very diverse to like, there was 5 black kids in the whole school, and they still confused us, which I'm just like, really? Come on. But, you know, those bonds are lifelong. Like some of those kids I grew up with, we still kick it. You know, we go crabbing in the summer, we go camping together, and, you know, it's a good experience, but it's also the other side where, you know, I've got my homies that were from where I grew up and, you know, we still hang out and they're still my close friends and all this stuff. So I have a very well-rounded network of individual and personality types and people.
That's important
to really have different perspectives and different stories, you know, and mine's kind of crosses both lines, you know, knowing how to navigate in different spaces. And I wouldn't say code switching because it's not necessarily code switching. When you're in different environments, you're just adapt to different things. And you're being exposed to different things. And in different situations, different environments, you got to be ready for different things. If I'm hanging with my family, I got to be ready for the jokes and the snaps because they coming with it.
True.
You know, but if I try to do that with some of my other friends, they might cry. You know, so
it's like reading the room. Before reading the room was a thing.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. So so I'm from Seattle, and you know, I'll probably be here. Who knows how much longer, but probably a while. So,
well, it's definitely shaped you. It shows,
for sure.
You know. Part of kind of what stuck out to me when you said you were kind of high achieving early on, I did read that when you were in high school, you did have the opportunity to intern while being in high school for Microsoft. And you could touch on that. But I'm also curious, like, how was the social life along with the internship when maybe a lot of friends weren't doing stuff like that at that age?
So
you know what I mean?
It is so funny because so the crazy thing is that it was all about the dollar. Like, let me tell you. So in high school, I did Running Start, which is a program where you can go to, you know, community college and take your classes, and then you graduate with your AA. So I'm like, okay, I'm in my counselor's office, and I'm like, you mean I could get what? College credits? They're free? I go where? I don't have to be here? You mean I get to go be with some older dudes? Literally, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, what? I like this. And then they're like, yeah, you know, so if you just have class until 11 o'clock, you know, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, oh, I could go get a job, and then I could still make it to cheer practice. I'm like, this seemed like this might be a little move.
And what age was this again?
This is like 14, 15.
Okay,
Because this is when, you know, you first get your permit, you got your car, and my grandpa was like, look, I'll get you a car, but I'm not paying no insurance, no gas. You got to figure it out. So I'm like, okay, I need to do something. But I was a very active cheerleader dancer, so I'm like, I had to be at practice every single day. So taking advantage of Running Start gave me the opportunity to get a job. And there's a flyer up in the room, and I always talk about how you have to be aware of your surroundings, because a lot of times opportunities are in front of us, but they don't promote them to us. And there was just this little flyer talking about Microsoft interns, and I'm like, that sounds interesting. Let me see. And I was 14 and a half at the time, and I was making $50 an hour at Microsoft.
What?
To the point where so then I switched up my school schedule. Because now they were like, oh, you know, as often as you want to come into Microsoft, you can do that. So I'm like, okay, how do I really maximize this? Like, what do I do? So I switched my school schedule. So I was starting at like 7:30 in the morning, going to Central. I would be done by like 10 o'clock. I'm taking the 5:45. I'm going to go do these hours. And then I'm going to come back, you know, and do whatever I needed to do and kick it with my friends and stuff after school.
Wow.
So then it came time for the summer internship and all this type of stuff. So I did the summer internships at Microsoft. And the funny thing is the second year, I actually got denied for the internship, and I responded to the denial letter, and I said, I think you guys have made a mistake. I was like, I think I'm a very eligible candidate for this opportunity. And I looked back at those emails, and I was like, yo, you were so arrogant.
Yeah. Like,
in your teenage years.
That's why I asked how old you were, because I just think back to maybe when I was like that age. It's like, what? Like,
yes,
you're just trying to hang out, have fun, and be young.
Nah, I wanted that back.
Yeah. No, I see that.
And so yes, I was like, you know what? I think that, you know, you guys should reconsider this. And they're like, well, what do you think about having the challenge of running the high school intern program? I was like, I don't know what that means, but I mean, sign me up, you know? So then I ended up being the manager that year and like coordinating all of our events and all types of stuff. So it was crazy to be like making that amount of money in high school. It definitely was challenging for like my parentals, because they couldn't really challenge me on much, because I'm like, you ain't paying for nothing. I don't need you to pay for nothing. Like, you can't really, you know, so it started very young, but just taking advantage of opportunities that I seen and just saying, okay, I could do that. How do we make this work? You know?
That's amazing. Because when I read that, I was just thinking like, it's beneficial in that aspect, but then I was just curious, like the social aspect, because like, you know, like at that age, it's like maybe it's hard to relate. Like, could your friends relate to you when you're like, yo, I'm about to go to the office? And
I mean, I think I don't remember any. I was always like weird. Like you could ask anybody that knew me, that's known me for years, and they'll be like, Keisha's weird. She's just weird. Meaning that I'm always just like, I'm down to like do the random stuff.
Yeah, you're doing your own thing.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, it wasn't weird. It was just, that's Keisha. She's doing whatever she's doing now, you know.
That's dope.
But I mean, shoot, I was helping them with class. I'm doing pass packets so my friends could graduate. I'm like, why don't y'all get this? This is basic boom, boom, boom. Like, what's up? So I think the social aspect wasn't really a challenge. I think being in a corporate environment that young was amazing for like helping me understand how serious you need to take life and how serious you need to take the world and opportunities, because I'm seeing grown people, you know, you got to get up, you got to be on time. Here's what you do in a meeting. Here's how you act in a meeting. So I'm really getting to take in all of those mature aspects of how to be an adult, really. And not even just an adult. Like, we're talking Microsoft making flip phones, like at that time, adult. So it was like I was on a team where we were working on the Sidekick. Before like smartphones were a thing. So we were under like NDA, you know, and it was the Wing, because you know Microsoft made the Wing, and then T-Mobile, whatever. So this is like tech battle, like original stuff. So there was so much responsibility, but I think it was beautiful to be taken seriously by my peers who were adults, twice, 3 times, 5 times my age. And they're like, nah, that's Keisha. She's the intern, but she's on her stuff. So, you know, it's taken as it is. So I think socially it wasn't too much. I mean, what could you say? If you said something, you was hating. I was like, psh, you know how much money I'm making? Like, what you gonna say? You working at Starbucks? Like, come on. So it wasn't too much.
Definitely. I mean, it definitely planted seeds for sure. 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you, man, because, I mean, you said you was like 14 and a half, 15, you know, so like, I know, man, probably when I was that young, I probably would have felt a little bit intimidated, like walking into Microsoft. But did you have like anything like with that? Did you ever feel like imposter syndrome?
Oh yeah, all the time. All the time. I think it was, you know, just trying to figure out who am I? How do I fit in here? Not just because of my age, because of my color, because I'm a woman, you know. I remember starting and they pair you up with mentors. And my mentor was like, okay, you need to go shop at White House Black Market. I'm like, what is that? Like, what type of store is that? I go to mom, like, these clothes is ugly. I am not wearing this stuff. But I get what she was trying to say. You know, she's like, this is how you show up. So, I mean, you know, people are going to challenge you, whatever. But I honestly, being a Garfield cheerleader, the challenges at Microsoft wasn't nothing. It was when we played Franklin and Rainier Beach that you better be on your stuff. So to be honest, it was like, it was kind of like, I mean, what y'all can't really say much at work. Like, it was whatever. But imposter syndrome is definitely a thing because, you know, I remember walking the hallways and feeling like you need to go to the Microsoft library, which nobody really goes to the Microsoft library like that. But they have a great library and being like, you need to learn how to code. I don't know shit about coding. That's not my lane, like at all. But feeling like I needed to in order to feel worthy to be there. And it's like, no, that's not the box that you needed to fit in. So there was definitely like those types of tech things. But I think a lot of people in tech probably feel the push to be like, you got to be more techie than you already are to be in tech. But shit, whatever.
No, that's a hell of an experience. And that was only in high school. Let's talk about kind of UW. I feel like everybody's college experience is different for multiple reasons, but what was that period like for you to go through that?
Yeah, so I went to UW because it was free. That's literally, look, back to the bag. Back to the bag. I wanted to go to HBCU. Like, I was Howard, and I applied to, you know, all the schools that I wanted to. I mean, in AP, it was different because we didn't even study for our SATs. Like, I didn't know people took, like, classes and stuff for that. It was just part of our, like, curriculum. Like, SAT time, that we going to take, like the WASL, you know, you take the SATs, so whatever. So I got into all my schools. My boyfriend was older than me at the time, so I'm like, I want to go where he goes. My grandpa vetoed that real quick. He's like, you don't need to do that. I got into Howard, but they were playing with the money. HBCUs don't be trying to really toss that coin. UW called, and they're like, oh, we want to offer you a position in the honors program. I was like, I don't want to be in honors in college. I don't know why I said no to that, but that did not appease me at all. But then they said, we're going to give you a full ride. I said, oh, okay, well, whatever. I'm still going to Howard, though. My grandpa's looking at the letter. He's like, no, it looked like you going to UW. Like, and this is where it looked like you going.
He's like, it don't add up.
And the cool thing was that they were paying 5 years of my education, which this is one of the biggest things that I didn't take advantage of because I didn't run a start. I had my AA, so I went into undergrad at literally 17 as a junior. So I could have stayed, got my master's, probably my PhD, and it would have been paid for. Damn. But my plan was like, I'm in and I'm out because I'm going to Microsoft and making this money. Like, it's time to go. So I was planning to do 2 years at UW and then dip. Now, what happened was, remember, I'm 17. I'm in college. I want to go to HBCU. UW don't have a lot of black men. So I'm in my, like, you know, I start school early, whatever. So I'm in class. I'm in this math class. And I'm like, dang. Now, that time, I mean, I was like, Flatiron, you got to be fresh, you got to be dipped. I'm at Garfield, you know, we dress. Like, that's where we was at. So, you know, you got to be edges laid, hair done, nails done, rings popping, all the stuff, you know. Now, I go to college, I'm head wrapped, I'm chilling. I'm like, I do not want to be here, whatever. Let me tell you. This is what made me stay at school. And I tell this story, my boyfriend knows, so it's not like this is a crazy thing. In walks these athletes. And I said, my God. I said, what is this? I said, these are some real men. I said, oh my God. I remember texting my girls and being like, ladies, it's some shit going on down here at UW that I ain't never seen before. What's up? And so I said, you know what? I think I could do this. I think I could stay here. That's why I stayed at UW. Wow. Legit. That is why I stayed at UW, because I said, wow, that is something tantalizing and interesting. Yeah. We can do this.
I love that. That's real though. You know what I mean?
It wasn't it was not the free ride. It was not the education. It was not the caliber of it was the athletes.
And but that's funny because we when we talk about college, especially on the show with guests, it's like it's kind of also just letting those know, like, you know, there's so much more to the college experience than just academics. It's like, it's the friends you meet, right? It's the people you see, that whole thing, and experience overall. So, you know what I mean? You got to factor all those things in.
You do, because it's such a trying time in life, because you're growing in so many ways, and you know, you're really meeting people that are going to be lifelong friends, you know, and figuring out who you are and what type of clubs you want to be involved in, and managing your own schedule and, you know, all that type of stuff. So it's definitely a interesting transitional time.
Yeah, no, definitely. 100%.
I feel like, I feel like you just learn a lot about yourself. You learn how to just be independent in a way too, like just kind of like take care of yourself. You kind of figure out who you are at the time, you know. So,
yeah.
It was great.
What a time to be alive.
It was.
Now, you mentioned about how you were kind of fast tracking to go back to Microsoft after college, which you did. Can you talk about kind of like what it was like coming back now, not a high school student, not an intern, but really to be an actual employee?
Yeah. So in college, I got really involved in like activism, and I became Black Student Commission Director. And my mission as Black Student Commission Director was actually to merge the athletic side of school and the Black population of scholars, because it was like two different worlds. And I'm like, okay, this world's popping, but they don't ever, you know, cross paths. We got to figure this out. So I started throwing parties on campus and all that type of stuff. And I said, there's so much you can do with just creating opportunities and spaces for people to meet each other. So I think when I graduated, I was 20. I was 20 when I graduated, and I went to Ghana. So we were the first like study abroad that had went to Africa. So it was pretty much like they chose all the Black leaders on campus and, you know, leaders of color. And it was like 25 of us on a plane, went to Africa. It was lit for like a month. So I'm like, okay, this is it. My mentor texted me before I left, and she's like, what you about to do? Like, you about to graduate? Like, what's your plan? I said, I have a job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, because I did. I said I went to Enterprise Rent-A-Car. They have a management program. And every time I watch Step Brothers, I laugh about this because they joke about this in Step Brothers.
They do.
But they do have a bomb-ass management program at Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
It's not for the movie. It's not scripted.
It's real. Not. They really do. And I was excited about it. It was going to be a great opportunity. I was going to love it. And she was like, girl, I don't even see your application come in. I said, I did not apply. I'm not doing that. I don't want to come back there, because I wanted to just do something different. So she's like, girl, just send me a resume. Like, I'm tired of your shit. Like, what's up? So I'm like, okay. So I sent it to my mentor, and I got moved through to the next rounds. And I'm like, okay, all right, okay. Now let me take this serious, because Microsoft interviews, you have to study. You have to be prepared. Like, it's not just, you just go in there. So I'm in Africa, and I had just had my like first rounds. I don't remember if I already had accepted before I went to Africa or not, but Africa almost tainted me going to Microsoft because I loved it so much. And I was like, I'm never going to get this type of culture anywhere in America, let alone the field that I'm about to go into. But again, my grandpa vetoed that. He was like, get your Black ass back to the States. Like, I don't know what you doing? So I came back and I went to Microsoft, and I had my 21st birthday, like my second week of work. Nobody knew it was my 21st birthday. I'm at work, like at my office, looking out like, this is lit, but this sucks. I'm like, this sucks to turn 21 and nobody cared, you know? So my boss came in, and he's like, oh, you know, how you doing? I'm like, it's my birthday. And he's like, oh, how old you turn? I'm like, 21. He's like, what? And you came to work? I'm like, I just started here. I'm not about to be taking time off. Like, what, you know? So he let me have the day off. I went to hang with my friends or whatever. And I was at Microsoft, I think, for 3 years before I officially was like, I don't like this. And what made me, I guess, start to not enjoy the experience was consistently being told that I wasn't good enough to do what I was there to do. And realizing and seeing very blatantly that this is not a me thing, this is a systems thing. If I'm seeing changes that need to be implemented, and it takes 6 months to update a website, but our biggest competitors are able to do it in real time, we are always behind. So our change management system is the reason why I can't be proficient at my job. And instead of them understanding that, it was a me thing. So I think at that time, I was 23. went into my performance review. And that morning, and I had started to listen to Joel Osteen on the way to work. Okay. Because I really needed to be filled with the Spirit, because I was like, this place is crazy. Yeah. It was a lot. So it's performance review time, and we had just had shift of managers and all this type of stuff. And I go on the meeting, and I was like, I think I'm going to quit my job today. And I was sitting at my cubicle. I was like, girl, you just bought a house. What? And I went into my meeting, and she flips over a paper, and it's review time, so we're getting our bonuses. Now, bonuses at Microsoft ain't no joke. Mm-hmm. Some people get bonuses that be 50 grand and up. Yeah. So I'm expecting at least 10 bands. I'm like, I need to see a couple coins in this paper. She flips this paper over. It says 0. I said, now, ma'am, wait, what's going on here, right? And she's like, well, this year the team had to recalibrate, so we're going to bullshit. Yeah. I said, you know what? We don't even really got to finish this meeting, because I think I'm pretty much done here. Yeah. She's looking at me like, now this is when she pissed me off, and I knew it was time to go, because she started to try to mother me. She started to be like, if you were my daughter, here's what I say. I'm not. Yep. I'm not. Yep. And she's like, I would hate for my daughter to give up on an opportunity like this because of what? Listen, that's your child. Yeah. That's what you would do with your child.
It could be solved if you just changed it.
Listen. I'm like, you didn't think about that. You weren't thinking of me as your child when you gave me this that's review.
Real. That's real.
And my review was good, but the bonus was bad. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. So I ended up resigning literally that day, and I was done. And then I started making wigs. And I went to my grandpa's house and sat on the porch. Will never forget this day. Like, literally, it was crazy because I was shaking. I was like, oh, my God, I'm about to tell him I quit my job. Yeah. And we're sitting on the porch. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm done. He's like, well, what does that mean? And I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm out. And he's like, well, what you going to do? I was like, I don't know. But I'm not about to do this. Yeah. And he was like, well, I think you can do it. He's like, I think you have done some crazy things, and I think you'll be all right. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting in my car and being like, all right, this is the next step. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. And I started making wigs. I got on social media, and that was the beginning of my social media journey and figuring out how to market your own company. And 10 years later, entrepreneurship has been the vibe. So it was just that those instincts of like understanding where you're not meant to be anymore.
That's such a powerful, thank you for sharing that. And the way you did, because I think a lot of people can relate to that. And I used to always hear people talking about like, oh, I want to quit my job. Or they want to go into business for themselves. They want to go into entrepreneurship. Because they want to quit their job and not because they believe they can actually succeed in business, but just because they just don't want to be there. And those are two separate things.
They really are.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for you, like, were there seeds planted early while you were at Microsoft to like look into entrepreneurship, even though it wasn't like I wanted to quit right away, but like, were you planting seeds on that?
I don't think so. Looking back, I made my first wig because I wanted to, in Africa, I really wanted to grow my hair out. We had these final projects where literally some of our classmates cut their hair off as like a patronage to the motherland. So I'm like, I ain't about to cut my hair off, but power to the people. And at Microsoft, I was like, no, I do want to go short, and I want to go Angela Davis fro. And I was scared because I knew that with my job being so client facing, I didn't know how that would be perceived. So I remember being at the hair shop and being like, well, how do I grow my hair and keep it natural but not put heat on it? Like, what am I going to do? She's like, you could wear a wig. And this is my stylist at the time, Candace, rest in peace. She's passed away now. She's like, you could wear a wig. I said, girl, I'm not wearing no wig. I'm in my early 20s. Like, girl, I don't know what you talking about. She's like, you could probably figure out how to make this. And that's all she said. And I said, people make them. I'm like, wait a minute.
Light bulb.
Literally, I was just like, what? And she's like, yeah, you know, it's hair and it's a net. And I was like, you damn right, it is just. And so I'm like, okay. I go home, I start researching, I look stuff up, I go to the hair store, and I'm like, I'm going to try this. I made my first wig, and I went to my sorority meeting. And my line sisters were like, girl, your hair is laid. Like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm just making wigs now. And so my line sisters were my first clients.
Okay.
We did like a little stupid little photo shoot at home. The wigs were probably terrible, but whatever.
Yeah.
They were my first paying clients. And then some of my other sorority members became paying clients. So I was just kind of doing it as a side hustle for probably not that long, maybe 6 to 9 months before I quit my job.
Okay.
So I had kind of seen that I could make some money, but I had no idea like how much.
Yeah, how big it can be.
I did not like, a lot of times people are like, oh, before you quit, you need to make sure you have this much saved up and all that. I didn't do any of that. Like, I still had mortgage, car note, all the stuff. And I was super young. Remember, oh, this is another joke that I did too. That scholarship from UW. So it paid for me to live on campus.
Yep.
Instead of living on campus, I saved my scholarship checks. And that's how I was able to buy my house at 21 because I pretty much put most of my scholarship money to the side.
Got it.
So I literally had invested in this property and I was like, okay, you got to be a little bit smart. But I wasn't. I just quit. And I'm like, I think for me, the risk of that is what pushed me. Because if I had the comfort to be like, I'm going to travel for a couple of months and I'm a whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
I probably would have just looked for another job.
Yeah.
But instead, I was like, no, you got to make stuff happen next month. Right now.
Yeah.
So that's when I said, okay, you got to get more customers.
Yep.
You got to figure out how much does this really cost to make and then really your business model. And so that's how my business really grew because it was, I had to, I had to get my bills paid.
Yeah.
And then social media just was like a whole world.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this is just, it was crazy. So I never looked back.
I love that.
Damn.
I just love that. Like, it's the epitome of betting on yourself, even though there's so much uncertainty ahead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's literally the missing piece for a lot of people.
Yeah. Because it's scary. It is very scary. Yeah.
So, like, what were some of the lessons you learned just, like, jumping into the business, kind of like, you're just like, man, I got to make this happen. You know what I mean?
Lessons I learned. Have contracts. Make sure people are all on the same page. And that's whether that means having, policies and procedures, whether that means having agreements, whether that means having contracts, whatever the case may be, making sure all parties involved are on the same page. So that's where we ended up crafting like our own unique ordering system so that, no details were left untold and that the product that we delivered everyone was going to be happy with because client satisfaction is definitely going to lead to more retention and less BS because it's the BS that will make you hate entrepreneurship. The clients that are, and I'm dealing in women's hair and Black women's hair on top of that, so it's very specific, it's very internal, it's not just about a look, it's about a feeling. And so there was just a lot that went into that. So I would definitely say, make sure everybody's on the same page, being very specific, learning how to hire people and when to let people go, and understanding who is a good fit for your team and who's not. And also how to have fun, you know, and how to really like maximize being a business and, those business perks that you get and all of that type of stuff, because the grind is going to be there. Like the grind, I turned my garage into like our workshop. And it's just down the stairs. I'm in my house, but I would be so tired. I put like a little bed thing in the garage because I'm like, I'm gonna sleep in here. Like I'm not going to my room. Like I'm sleeping here. I'm taking shifts and I'm grinding it back out. And just being willing to do what it takes because, and knowing when to say no. Because clients will push you. They'll be like, I don't care if it's Christmas. I'll pay you double. While that sounds great, I need this time. I need to go be with my family. So there was so many lessons that I learned, having boundaries and saying, nah, I'm not doing this. This is what we do. This is what we don't do and all that type of stuff. And always learning. You got to always be learning. No,
that's so amazing. And I feel like you're the best person to probably touch on this because for me, I feel like the term entrepreneur is just like, it's like any other industry where people are just fascinated, but it's really just a title.
It is.
And to this day, I really don't know what it truly is defined as, right? Because you hear entrepreneurship, but really if you pull that curtain back, it's all that stuff you were just talking about. It's sleeping in my garage. It's doing all these things, dealing with the stress and all that stuff. So you kind of already touched on it, but I guess what are your thoughts on people kind of being fascinated by something but not necessarily ready for the harsh realities that come behind it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
Like this culture is like breeding more of that.
It is. And when I started Business Bestie and I started coaching entrepreneurs and I started saying, okay, I'm teaching entrepreneurship, I realized that because a lot of people, they just say, I want to leave my job because I don't like it there and I don't like them people, but I'm trying to do this. I want to sell this. And I'm like, but why?
Yeah.
You know, I think entrepreneurship is such a phrase that, I don't know. It's hard because even some entrepreneurs, like, right, Elon Musk is technically an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right. But he ain't like us. You know, we be trying to say, yeah, my startup. I'm like, his startup, y'all startup ain't the same thing. Like, we need different words for this type of stuff. I wouldn't even know how to define entrepreneur. I would say someone who is willing to do what it takes to make an idea reality. Because I think it's a mindset. Because you don't have to have a business to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to have a startup to be an entrepreneur. You could be working at a company and have an entrepreneurial mindset where it's that you see problems and you know how to fix them. And that you're seeking a solution based on this gap, you know. And that's really what all businesses are, is you're filling a gap, you're thinking about the customer need, and that can be in any space. So to me, that's kind of what an entrepreneur is.
Got it.
I don't think entrepreneurship has to be about a business. It's not just about revenue. It's really about a way of life and kind of a way of thinking.
Yeah, the mindset.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. I'm definitely glad you touched on that because like some people they'll kind of rule that out if they got a 9-to-5. But I'm like, man, you got a 9-to-5, but you're putting money into something else. Like, you know, you're taking that. So you're technically entrepreneur. So I'm just glad you touched on that. Honestly.
It's all about the mentality. You did touch on Business Bestie, coaching, paying it forward. At what point did you feel confident enough to teach? Because I do feel like, you know, sometimes it's hard for people to teach when they haven't done themselves. Like, was there a point where you said, okay, I think I've gained enough experience, it's time to pay it forward? Like, when did that click for you?
That's why I started coaching, because I started to see entrepreneurial coaches who had never done it before. And I was like, what are they teaching and how? Like, you cannot, like, and I have a master's in entrepreneurship now. I did go back to school and get my master's in entrepreneurship because I wanted to learn how to be like an Elon Musk entrepreneur, right? Because again, that ain't the same thing. You don't just hustle to that, right? So I said, okay, you know, I wanted to learn it. But wait, now I didn't lost the question.
The business bestie.
Yes, why I did it. Because people was lying. And they're like, yeah, I can teach you how to do this. And I'm like, how you going to teach somebody how to do something you haven't done? And people will always be like, can I intern for you? Can I shadow for you? Can I do these things? You know, can I learn from you? How much can I coach you to do my business? And I'll be like, I don't know. So one of my friends from Microsoft, one of my friends, James from Microsoft, he had started to flip property. So he had started to do like an online coaching. And he's like, I think you should do this for business. Like, I think you should just try it. So I'm like, okay, tell me what I need to do. He's like, this is how you get clients. This is what you need to do. I'm like, all right, bet. So he pretty much gave me a blueprint. And he's like, I just want to see if this works. Like, let's just try. And I had 15 students my first time.
Wow.
And I was so excited. And then my biggest cohort so far has been 93 students.
Wow.
Which I realize is like my capacity, because I'm very hands-on and I want to know everyone. I want to talk to you. I want to, you know, be very deep. But you just can't scale that far with that many people. So I kind of ended up saying, well, how do I grow this model? And then the pandemic hit, and I was like, I don't even know where to go with this. But it's been fun. It's been fun to see the different nuances of entrepreneurship and the BS entrepreneurs that are looking for a one-stop fits all. And then there's the ones that I'm like, wow, we really been grinding together. I'm so proud to see how much they've grown. I love to see their success. And you know when people have that spark, to make it happen, and when people are just looking for a quick fix.
Yep.
And if you're looking for a quick fix, it's going to be a quick burn.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that, like, it don't happen fast.
Yep.
It's been years in the making. Like, whatever business I decide to do next, if it blows up like freaking crazy, that's not just, oh, she got lucky. Like, I've been in this 10 years.
It takes 10 years to be an overnight success.
Yeah, you know, like, I've worked out the kinks in so many different areas that now I'm like, okay, here's how you put it together. So it was fun, but it was very stressful to do Business Bestie, coach people, which then became its own business, and still run my other companies at the same time. And then you have the challenge of, how do I give away and teach so much, but still keep my secret sauce in my businesses without tainting my own ship, you know? But I had to learn that, like, no matter what you're teaching, you're always going to be evolving in your own business, you know? So I just would give it all away. I'm like, look, this is exactly it. And understand that nobody's going to be you, though. So even though somebody's going to say the same thing, they will never say it how you said it. They can never do it how you did it. And I've literally had people try to, like, literally take my business model, and I'm like, really? Are you serious? And I'm like, but you can't. So try, you know, whatever. So it's interesting. I do not like when people jump in to try to teach stuff that they don't know. Because I'm like, you are just creating other people of ignorance.
Yeah, it's tough, man. And it's just important because one of my good friends, he runs a company, Graduated Money. Shout out P. Smith. But I remember he put in, like, I want to say, like, close to like 4 or 5 years of just learning how to properly run marketing and advertising campaigns for e-commerce businesses. And, like, he was just like showing me the grind of, like, learning and then finally developing a course and then teaching it, but then being hands-on, like you talked about. And one thing I noticed is, like, it takes a special type of person to teach because you have to meet people where they're at, you know what I mean? And the one size fits all model is just not, it just doesn't work. You know what I mean? So that's good.
I know you touched on this earlier, going back to UW, like, how was it different the second time you went? Like, you know,
the second time for my master's. So I had, let me see, I think I was in business at that point for 5 years, and I think that was when Shark Tank was happening. And I realized, like, soon with Shark Tank that there was stuff that they were asking for that I had no idea what it was. And I was like, holy shit, there's some level of business that you don't even know. Like, they were like, what's your valuation? I was like, the what? What is the what? And I'm like, I watched the show, but I'm like, oh, I didn't know those were, like, real calculations. Like, I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm applying for Shark Tank, and I'm, like, getting all this, you know, figuring it out, and ended up, like, getting to the show and realizing, like, oh my God, you don't know all this stuff. So I wanted to go to school, and I realized I didn't want to get my MBA. I'm like, I don't want to dedicate 2 years to this, and I don't want to learn the corporate stuff. I just want to learn the business stuff. And so UW had just launched I was part of their inaugural class of Masters of Entrepreneurship.
That's dope.
And I was the only one in my class that came in running their company, growing their company, and left with their company larger than before. A lot of people were coming in with ideas, and some of those ideas launched and some of them didn't. But I was literally like, nah, I gotta go make sure my staff is good. I'm still payrolling, like, I'm paying for college at the same time. I didn't have a full scholarship, so it was a different situation at that time, and it was tough. Oh my God, going to school, being a stellar student, and running my company, growing it, Shark Tank.
The energy.
It was crazy. And I'm glad that I liked what I was learning and that I could actually apply it. Like, I could be, like, in class and be like, oh, I see how I would do that with my business. Okay, I get what they're saying. And then just understanding that in order, again, to get to those unicorn level of understanding of business models, you're not just going to read it. You know, it's not just in a book. You need someone to teach you those things. And I think that's where a lot of times in Black business, we don't necessarily know a lot of people that have done entrepreneurship at that level to teach us those types of things. So if I hadn't been in grad school, I don't know how I would have figured out like valuations. I don't know who I would have gone to have done that. You know, accounting is one thing, but then business value, that's a whole different ball game. And those are the numbers that they talk about, you know. So when they're like, oh, this is so-and-so company, you know, so-and-so $1 billion company, they're not just BSing, like that's an actual value number. And it was tough. I think that was a time period that I always look back and I'm like, was it worth it? Like the stress that you had to endure, was it worth it? But it definitely was, because I'm still very close to the UW community now because of that. And I always go back and speak to different entrepreneurs and just try to be a different face, you know? And I'm always like, you know I'm the diversity spin, like I get it, but I'm proud to be that because I'm proud to say, you know, I was part of the inaugural class here of Masters of Entrepreneurship, and you guys had a Black woman in there, and the Black woman was the one that came out with the business, you know, and I'm like, that's so dope to be that person and to also tell other people and to show other people like you can do it. You don't have to look like Elon Musk. You don't have to come from all this money in order to be successful. You can learn what you need to learn and still grow. So it was a very different different experience. And being in business school, I wasn't part of the larger campus. So I wasn't like as involved as I was in undergrad.
More focused.
You know, there wasn't no kicking it. And I mean, me and my classmates would get together and do stuff, but it was definitely you got to be a little bit more on your grind. It was more of a balance.
That's so dope. That's so dope.
Shout out to you for that, though.
Thank you.
And the representation is so important in anything. You know, even our show in itself, that's kind of what we're based on, is representation. Now, kind of switching gears a little bit, we talked about this before the show. You did have the opportunity to be invited on Dr.Phil. And it was to discuss your personal experience dealing with racial bias in regards to real estate and home ownership and all that comes with that. I guess, how did that opportunity come about? And then if you could talk about kind of what you took away and like what was that experience like discussing that.
So I always say that God places you in places and you never really know why you're there, what's going on. And you just got to kind of trust the journey. So I got on TikTok because I was scared of TikTok. And the whole pandemic, I was like, I'm not dancing. I had a tumor in my leg actually most of the pandemic, so I couldn't do like TikTok dances and stuff. But in high school, I was a dancer, so I was like, man, I'm missing out on like the flavor of the TikTok
this is
stuff.
My time.
You know, I'm like, I could be out here hitting this. Like these 8 counts, I could learn like nothing. And so I'm like, okay, let me get over this fear. Let me just start getting on TikTok. And I was renovating my house, but I was only sharing it on Instagram stories. I wasn't making it like a part of my brand. It's just something I was doing, taking care of my grandpa, the whole thing. But I had been growing like just through that. Like people were like, I'm here for this now. So I'm like, okay, let me take this over there. And I had 2 friends, Angelina and Dime, and they were like, girl, I mean, it was like every week. They'd be like, girl, you need to get on TikTok. Like, this is gold. Like, if you were on TikTok, like, oh my God. So they're like, look, just start here. Just take the stories that you already do because they're so good and just go put them there. Like, don't do nothing else. Because I got in my head. I said, no, I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to TikTok. Like, I'm scared. They're like, nah, make it simple. Just do this. So I do that. I said, okay, I'm going to dedicate to just posting a couple videos. Then I got into it. Then I started talking. Then my followers started growing. I was like, okay, we could talk. Let's talk. So then we started really talking. Now, my neighbor went crazy and there was a whole situation. So I said, you know what, if I'm gonna talk, we're gonna talk about the real stuff that's going on and how there's intimidation literally happening over my fence, and we're gonna talk about this and how this is a crazy situation. And so I did, and that was not my first viral video. My first viral videos were about my bathroom faucet. So I was making like videos about my renovation. So people were there for that, and then they were like, what do you mean? Like somebody asked to buy your house? Like what? And I'm like, yeah. And it was a crazy low offer. And they're like, what? Yeah. So I made another video. And at this time I was walking and stuff. So I was like dancing the video on my balcony, and it just like took off. White people were pissed. they're like, why, how dare you say that they wanted your house because you were Black? They want your house because it's just your house. I said, however, there's bias built into every system. So even if you're saying that it was a computer, which it wasn't. It was not a computer. Let's be very clear. It was not a computer. It was a handwritten note. I know exactly who it was from. But if you want to say it was a computer, because, you know, you got to soften everything, whatever. Even if it was, there's racism built up in that. So you cannot tell me that it is a coincidence that all of a sudden this is happening and I'm being hounded for my home. And so I was dealing with those trolls. I mean, and they came. Like, they were sending emails. How dare you be out here talking about this? How dare you? Like, I was like, it was so crazy. Me and my boyfriend was like, we need to stack up, because if we wake up and there's a crossburn on the front yard, like we need what? I had somebody call me from NAACP LA. I was like, how'd you get my phone number? And they're like, we just want you to know, if you need security support, whatever, we will ride up to Seattle. Like, we see what's going on. So I'm like, oh shit, it's time to who ride. I'm like, what's up?
You never know who's watching too.
You never know. And I'm like, well, excuse me, how'd you get my phone number? He's like, don't worry about it. Just know, this is my number. This is the number to call.
No, we on call.
Look, we're ready. I was like, oh shit, okay. So I started making more videos about that. I'm like, ask me questions about real estate. Because then I'm like, no, this is not my first home. Like, I've been a homeowner since 21. Like, I understand what's supposed to happen and what's not supposed to happen. And this is weird. So I started doing just like question and answer videos. And they kept going viral and just hitting and hitting and hitting. I'm like, wow, this is like a whole audience for this. And, sorry, excuse me. So I get a DM. And DMs are so interesting because you never know what's real. You never know what's fake.
Nowadays, for sure.
Yeah, you just never really know. So I get a DM and it's like, hey, we're from the Dr.Phil show. And I'm like, bullshit. They're about to ask me for my social security number, some shit. I'm about to get scammed.
I could turn $20 to 20,000.
Yeah, I was like, this ain't real. Like, whatever. So I like ignore it. And then they hit me up on Facebook and I'm like, oh, I'm like, okay, these scammers getting real in depth. They're serious. So then, and back on Instagram, and she's like, hey, and she hits me up again. So I respond, and I'm like, can you email me? Like, I need to see an official email that says something official. Because I feel like with an email, you can normally kind of tell a little bit better. But no, she was right. I said, oh, shit, okay. This is actually Dr. Phil show. Like, wow. So she's like, let's set up a call. So we had a call, and it was like, I think maybe like 2 months before, you know, actually going down in air, because they really wanted to make sure that I was comfortable with the narrative, that, you know, everybody understood what was going on, the truths of the story and all the little pieces. So we just talked multiple times. They wanted so much behind the scenes footage of the house and all the stuff. And then they're like, okay, well, we're ready. Like, can you come down to LA? You know, we're going to do a 2-part series. And I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, so can you come down next week? We'll fly you down here. So I went down to LA and we did the recording. And it was such a great experience. Like,
it was a great episode.
Yeah, it was so cool. I was so nervous because I was like, what are they going to say? And I'm thinking, like, in my head, I haven't watched Dr. Phil in a minute. So I was like, holy shit, it's going to be like Mari. It's going to be like Mari. And it was not at all. It was such a comfortable and warm environment, and it was real curiosity for the truth of what was happening. And even the way that he set up the segments of like bringing in other people that were adding facts and things, I was like, whoa, some of the information about redlining and gentrification were things that I didn't even know, you know, and it kind of just added weight to how serious this issue was. And then I had families reaching out like all over the nation, and they're like, look, this is happening here. We get this, like, keep your land, like, you know, all the stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is a much larger narrative than I even understood. I just was on TikTok talking about like, this shit is crazy. You know, and but understanding how many Black families have lost their wealth. And that's when the topic got serious, because it's like, okay, wait a minute. We're not just telling a story. We're actually talking about years of progression that gets regressed based on lack of support, understanding, and awareness that these things happen to us. Because a lot of times we think it's just us until you get platforms like TikTok, and then you realize, holy, this is not just us. You know, it's built into deeds that you can't sell to Black families. You know, there are areas that were made for us that are now the $1 million houses. And of course, they're trying to get you out out of those areas. So it was mind blowing to see the effects of that, and then to see it on TV and like all the stuff. Yeah, it was crazy.
It was powerful though, because I think, like you said, sometimes you don't really know. Like you said, God will have a plan for you before you even know what's ahead. And, you find yourself being a revolutionary in a sense, right? Like sometimes it's just being you and sharing your experiences can actually lead kind of a revolution, you know what I mean, in its own right. Sure. So I think that's important, of like, don't be afraid to tell your story.
Right. Yeah.
Step up. Even when you're being called, step up. You know what I mean? Because if it's not you, they may not call nobody else. You know what I mean?
And don't suffer in silence. That's a big thing. I think so many people suffer in silence and think like, oh, no one cares, you know, or my voice doesn't matter, you know, and that's not the case at all. And I appreciate social media platforms because we can have discussions like this and, you know, podcasts like yours where you can talk about different topics because, you know, excuse me, it's good to know that your story matters. And if it changes one person, that's great, you know. But then to see something literally, and then they were like calling me TikTok woman. I'm like, I only been on TikTok 3 months. Like, how'd I become TikTok woman? Like, what?
Grows
you know,
fast.
You know, and then it just takes you down different lanes. And then you have to decide, okay, wait, do I want to just talk about home ownership or, you know, is this a part of my brand? And that's what I decided. I'm like, it's a part of my brand, but I'm not a real estate agent. I don't want to just, you know, be talking about black wealth all the time.
No, I just love that episode because I think it just kind of like, what it showed me was like, even if you are the perfect candidate for opportunities, you have everything you need. Even those type of people aren't necessarily given the chance that they should get, right? So it can be very discouraging to people who are just trying every day. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So I feel like it is important to get out there and show that side. But
because I remember, when I sold my first house to renovate my inherited home, I was like, I mean, what else do I need? Like, I got 800 credit score. I got money in the bank. I got business records. Like, what's up? Man, I tried every avenue. And I was like, this is not going to happen. You are not going to be able to do this. Like, how are you about to make this happen? And so to see the renovation done, I literally wake up every day like, I mean, it took every penny. Towards the end of that, I'm like top ramen. Like, literally for real, like, what's up? But I didn't care, you know? And my boyfriend had said to me the other day, he said, but if there was a cross that you had to die on, like, this is a damn good cross that you had to die on, you know, because I still be regretful about it. I'm still like, man, I could have had money. I could have been chilling, man. And I'm like, he's like, no, you did this for a reason. It was, you know, for a purpose. Like, it's good. Like, you did well. But it was hard. It was hard. It was very discouraging. And I just felt defeated. I felt like the system had won and that there was no way that I was going to accomplish this dream of finishing this renovation. And I'm like, I done already sold my house. I got a house that needs hella work done. I don't have enough money to do it. So am I going to live in like a half-ass house? Like, what's going to happen?
And these are things you shouldn't even have to go through. No. But all because of implemented biases that are just from, you know what I mean? They're like archaic. They're just, you know what I mean? It's like
built in, man.
It's crazy.
Somebody got to make a system and those people's values are in the code.
But again, you know, you're using your platform, and I think any sort of contribution towards that is going to help. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you.
Because, I mean, being the homies, we talk about it too. Like, it's happening all around us, but it's kind of like, you kind of feel helpless at a point. You know what I mean? You're just like, well, how do we stop this? How do we, you know, kind of keep our own like houses or our parents' houses, grandparents, you know? So I think it was definitely very important to see. You know?
I was on Facebook today and there's a picture going around and I'm sure we grew up together, but I don't know his name, but he's standing in the back of a sign that says like hood closed to gentrifiers. And everyone's like, this is such a great picture. And I'm like, where the fuck is this sign at? Number one. Because whenever you talk about gentrification, there's some people that are going to get offended, right? You know, when the Dr.Phil episode came out, like my white neighbors were kind of like, okay, do we like, hey Keisha, it was kind of like, like, you know, are you happy that we're here? Like, you know, and I had conversations with a lot of my neighbors, like, it's not you, it's just, it's hard, right? Mm-hmm. Because if a home is for sale and you see an opportunity and you take it, mm-hmm. like many families have that may not have been Black, mm-hmm. are we then to be angry at them for taking the great opportunity? Because a lot of times our homes we sold, mm-hmm. you know, they weren't always taken from us. Like, mm-hmm. let's be very clear. Now, mm-hmm. yes, taxes get behind and some people's houses were taken that way. And I think that should have been affected and stopped. Mm-hmm. However, a lot of times families sell. And now, you know, because a lot of times people will reach out to me and be like, okay, we inherited this house. Like, what do you think? I'm like, don't sell. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times that's the easiest route. And we're talking, you could sell a house in a CD and make $1 million. Yep. But where are you going to be able to put that where it's going to keep growing at the same rate that this one would? So when I see signs like hood closed to gentrifiers, I'm like, but are we preparing our youth and our next generations to be able to buy those houses? Mm-hmm. Are we in financial positions to buy our houses? If it's touchy, because we can't be mad at them for seeing the opportunity that we didn't see.
They're just taking advantage of a system that's created for them to take advantage of.
And it's so frustrating. And it's like, what do? You know, so I try to educate on like, here's what you can do. Here's how you can stay in your homes and all those things. I talk about property taxes, but it's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to tell someone to feel guilty for a privilege that they don't really necessarily see as a privilege. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just a way of life.
Because they're like, we bought this house just like we would buy any other house. So
and I think they feel their intentions are being attacked when we're not saying they have bad intentions, mm-hmm. but just in the privilege alone is kind of where it can be tough. You know what I mean? But it's tough all around. But
it is. It's a hard subject.
But you know, we have to keep fighting.
We do.
And I feel like that's why even watching your episode, I was like, damn, we're fighting for so much other shit already as it is that you gotta, you know what I mean?
Man.
But you know, again, we're built for it, and we only have but so much time to leave our mark, you know what I mean, to make our contributions. And I feel like we're going to persevere because that's just who we are.
It is. Yeah, it is.
That's how we roll.
Got to.
Now, you've been dropping some gems, man.
For real.
Thank
You've been dropping a lot of gems.
Thank you.
I am curious, with all the work and all the things that you got going on, what kind of keeps you balanced? Like, what are some things you do to keep you balanced? Because, you know, like you said, you can't be grinding all the time.
I am super zen. Like, when people enter my home, they're like, wow, it is peaceful as hell in here.
Yeah.
I, like, down to every inch. Like, I wanted a lot of stone in my house. I wanted, you know, because everyone's into stones, and I'm like, nah, I need the whole fireplace breathing. Like, I need stone, you know, energy, all that type of stuff. I spend a lot of time in just sit in solitude. I realize I'm not someone who is used to sitting, so I had to learn how to sit. I had to learn how to journal. I had to learn how to pray. I had to learn how to receive the word after prayer, because a lot of times we pray and then we move. But you got to receive and sit and, you know, be still. And I sit on the balcony and I allow nature to feed me a lot more. I'm so much more observant of my world around me. You know, I'm very grateful that I have a view at my home, so I'm able to literally watch the seasons change. And like, I know we got to tune out the sound.
Man. City, man.
Yeah. So, you know, I get to watch the seasons change, and like, I can tell what time of day it is by looking outside. Like, I'm like, oh, I know the time of day, and I can look at the sun and I can hear the birds, and you know, so it's like, I'm very observant, and like, my friends are always like, you always sound so high, like all the time. Like, because I'm like, wow, did you see the pinks today? You know?
I'm the same way. Like, it's important.
It is.
It's a practice. It's really like a practice. You got to practice being present.
You do.
That's part of the practice right there.
You do. And so I'm like, you know, I could tell you what type of birds are in my community. I'm like, I know where they live. I know what time they wake up. Like, I try to go outside. I'm not a walker. You know how people be like, I like to hike. No, I just want to sit outside. I don't want to hike. I don't want to walk. I don't want to do none of that. I just want to sit and observe. And like, I like to see things completed. So I'm always into a project. I'm always trying to be like, oh, okay, how do I fix this? How do I solve this? You know? But just finding peace in just anything. You know? And I like TV. I watch TV a lot.
Yeah.
Oh,
watch yourself on TV too, right?
Funny thing, I don't like watching myself on TV. That's weird. Yeah, it always weirds me out. I'm always like, why did I do that? Like, why did I say that? Yeah, but no, I will wake up, like, if my phone says like the new episode of something, it's 4:00 in the morning. I'm like, everybody sleep, bet. I'm about to just zone in and just go in. So
no, that's good.
Yeah, I like storytelling. So I like when movies and shows have good stories and just learning about other people's lives. And reality TV, even though most of it's fake, I think you learn about other people's worlds.
Yeah.
And it's like, you really existing like this. That is crazy, you know?
Yeah, no, there's a lot.
Yeah.
No, I always just ask that question for guests because it's important for the listeners and the viewers to know, like, it ain't all just about the purpose and the grind. Like, sometimes there's more to, there's more than that. You got to keep a balance.
Yeah, you
definitely.
Do. You do.
Sure, man.
Now before we get you out of here, I know you're busy. I always do ask guests this question. What's your outlook for the future? Like, do you have things, it could be long-term, maybe immediate, but like, what are some things you're excited about for the future?
One, having this baby. I got 3 months left. That is number one. And that is the future. I think entering motherhood is a whole different plateau. I have waited so long to be ready for motherhood. I'm very afraid of it. I'm not going to say that I feel prepared. I'm not going to say that I'm like, yes, I always knew. Yeah. No, my grandpa was like, are you ever going to settle down? Like, and whoever you settle down with, I'm praying for them because, man. So I don't know. I'm excited to just see. I don't have a big plan, and I'm grateful that I don't, because I've lived so much of my life with that. And sometimes your own plan can be the reason why you get stagnant, because you can get scared of your own dreams. And it's difficult to sometimes make those big visions happen. And a lot of big things have happened in my life that I didn't plan. So I'm like, okay, God, I'm in a season of surrender. Whatever it is that you want me to do, that's where I'm gonna go. That's where I'm gonna be planted. And we're just gonna see how that rocks. And eventually, I pray for God to plant the next dream, plant the next seed. And then I got pregnant, and I was like, okay, well, that's not what I was saying, but okay.
You tell you got the message.
Look, right, and already on this journey, I'm 5 months now, 5.5 months, and I can feel the change. I feel the shift in like who I need to be and who I need to become, and understanding that you can't stay the same because now you're going somewhere else, and it's a new territory to conquer, and what do I want that to look like, and how do I want that to feel, and taking my moments of privacy in that and peace. I think being someone who shares a lot, it was a very fine balance of like, okay, well, what of this do I want to share and I don't want to share, and not knowing. I have no idea what life would be like as a mother, so I almost feel it's irresponsible to be like, this is what I'm gonna be doing when it's like, girl, you don't know that. So I'm just in a season of surrender and allowing God to make the plan, and I'm excited for whatever the next dream is, because when I dream and I set a goal, like, it normally happens, and it happens pretty well. But just right now, that's the only thing, is just making sure I have a good foundation for my family and all of that type of stuff. And I'm excited about that. And it seems like a very simple goal. You know, like, that's just it. That's it.
I love that.
Congrats on that.
Yeah, congratulations. Definitely. We're excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now before you got something to say?
Oh yeah. Before you say what you're gonna say, I was gonna say.
It's like you knew what I was about to say. Read my mind.
I was gonna say, where can people find you if they want to reach out, or like social media?
So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok at Keisha Credit or Create with Keisha. They both go to the same pages. And I'm always on Instagram stories. So, I try to do as many reels as I can, but on stories, that's when I'm giving the just, raw, unfiltered stuff. But my stories are like their own TV show in their own right. And I'm always like, well, if you missed it, you missed it. Yesterday we built a house.
It's like back in the day how TV used to be.
Right, exactly. So they can find me at Keisha Credit or Create with Keisha, and Create with a K.
Cool. Now, before we get you out here, we ask every guest this question. So if you can, what's one word to describe what keeps you on the up and up, and why?
I don't know why weed came to mind, but that's not it. Let's see. Oh, what keeps me on the up and up? Oh my God. I'm thinking of a word that's like peace, prayer, serenity, something in there. I don't know. I don't know how to put it into one word. Solitude, I think. Yeah. Because it's those 4 a.m.s when I'm journaling and I'm literally like downloading the energy of what the universe has given me. And that grounds me and keeps me going. So those moments of solitude, not being in solitude by myself, but just having that time where I'm in solitude. I definitely think that is game changing.
I love it.
Yeah.
I like that.
Wow, I like that. Yeah.
I think that's the first time we got solitude.
That's definitely the first
one.
one.
Yeah, I came up with a good word.
I like how we can just recollect because we know all the words. That's dope too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You guys should make like a big like shape with all the words.
We've done content, but we're gonna update it.
Yeah, we definitely got it.
That's great though. That's a great word choice for sure. Well, Keisha, again, we just want to thank you for being here.
For sure. Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Yeah, dropping them gems. I'm almost certain anybody who's listening or viewing definitely can walk away with some gems from this one.
My thought stories.
Yeah.
From undergrad.
Yeah, man. But yeah, like I said, we wish you much success moving forward.
Thank you so
you guys
much.
Support with us here at the UpNUp always.
Always.
Thank
and
you.
with
this
that being
such love. It was a great time.
Yeah, no, man, it's long overdue, but it's right on time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There we go.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I think it's safe to say Keisha Credit is officially a member of the UpNUp.
Yes, I'm grateful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
This was awesome. I loved it.
killed
Thank
that.
you.
To continue supporting the podcast and the entire UpNUp movement, be sure to rate, review, like, and subscribe.
As well as follow us at _ the UpNUp on all social media platforms to stay connected with everything the UpNUp has coming your way.
Thanks for listening, and until the next one,
Keep it on the UpNUp.